So in order to understand what affects our fertility, we really need to understand what allows us to have fertility and what pathways are actually going on, what hormones are involved, what neurotransmitters are involved. We need to understand this in order to figure out how we can improve our fertility. One thing that really affects our hormones specifically is stress. So if we are under either acute or chronic stress, this can really affect both males and females. I will explain why. So one part of the body that's really heavily part of this process is the hypothalamus, and this is a part of the brain that is actually going to control not only our stress pathways, but also just in general our hormone production, and this is because it controls the pituitary glands. So if a female is stressed, she's actually going to experience fertility issues way sooner than actually even a male would, and this is to do with the fact that the adrenal glands can produce testosterone in both males and females, but of course the males have a backup. I wouldn't say a backup, more like males will produce most of their testosterone actually in their gonads. So they'll be producing it from both places. If we were to shift the hormone production to cortisol in the adrenal glands in a male and a female, we're going to experience more issues in a female because they don't have the testosterone being produced in the gonads like a male would. So it obviously goes without saying that these sex hormones are incredibly important in healthy fertility in both males and females. We know that in males, testosterone is really, really important for healthy sperm production. And in females, estrogen and progesterone are obviously required in the right ratios in order to produce a healthy cycle. We know that estrogen is important for the development and the release of a healthy egg every month in ovulation. And of course, progesterone is needed to, help with the health of the uterus and stimulating a thick, nice lining of the uterus so that the egg can ideally implant if you were to become pregnant. Estrogen and progesterone are also very important in creating the right cervical fluid consistency in a female and allowing for the sperm to be able to actually reach the egg if this was to actually occur. We also know that progesterone is important to create a cervical plug and actually prevent anything from getting up into the uterus if fertilization was actually to occur. So all of these hormones are extremely important. What else is important? Well, oxytocin is going to be really important in both males and females to actually stimulate the muscular contractions that occur during orgasm. And so it's important also for a female to have a nice release out of oxytocin because it helps to actually draw up the cervix and help to pull the sperm, if they're present in that area, up into the right area so that they can ideally implant the egg. Now, because oxytocin is also released out from the pituitary gland, which is affected by the hypothalamus, it's also important that the hypothalamus is healthy. And again, when the hypothalamus is alerted to stress, things are going to start shifting and hormones are not produced in the right ratios. So this can also be, quite an effect on the fertility pathways. So last but certainly not least is the involvement of both of the parasympathetic, which is our rest and digest, and the sympathetic nervous systems. They have to be working in the right way in order to actually stimulate fertility as well. And this is both in males and females. So essentially what's going to happen is the parasympathetic, or the rest and digest nervous system, is involved in the stimulation of blood flow to the right organs. So if you imagine in a male, it's going to be the aim, whereas the sympathetic nervous system is essentially going to be the fire. So what I mean here is essentially the parasympathetic nervous system is really, really important to stimulate blood flow to the right organs, whereas it's the sympathetic nervous system that actually is going to create climax. So it's really important here to understand that we require the parasympathetic nervous system to actually be active in the right amounts in order to help with blood flow to the area. So if you are overly stressed or stressed at all, we need to understand that the sympathetic nervous system is always going to take priority. So if you're stressed, you can't actually send blood to the area because your parasympathetic nervous system is going to be switched off. So worthwhile keeping in mind. So I hope all these things help to understand fertility a little bit more. If you want any information on this in a deeper extent, please contact me.